Dear colleagues, welcome back to the afternoon session. I know that the routine of coming, sitting down, listening, talking, going back to the rooms, making, having a break and then coming back is quite taxing by itself, especially in the campus here where the steps are quite steep. You have to climb a lot of steps to go back to your apartment and so on. I'm very happy that all of you are still with us and will be with us. This afternoon, we are happy and privileged to have with us somebody that I don't think needs much introduction to all of you. If you have not met him, you have certainly heard of him. Professor Rashid Moten is a senior professor at
Thank you.
in the Department of Political Science. Now you may be wondering why we invited a political scientist to come and address a group of economists, business lecturers, accountants, and finance people. The reason is because political scientists, they can speak to any crowd. Yeah? And Prof. Rashid Moten, of course, is a very experienced person in two areas. One, he has been with the university for a long time. He has been a big part of the mission of Islamization. He has been very active in activities relating to Islamization and talking about curriculum development in the area of Islamic perspectives of various institutions. Secondly, and more directly to the topic of this afternoon, which is about textbook writing, he has actually not only spoken about it, but he has actually done it. Yeah, he has a book, Introduction to Political Science. I think it's called a Primer on Political Science. And it has been used. It has been used in the university for the last 10 years. Yeah, close to 10 years, if not 10 years. And as I mentioned to you on the first day, this is actually one of the more important parts of this workshop. Is not only to be able to discuss curriculum and to talk about the course outline, formats and so on, actual textbook. And who better than somebody who's actually come up with something. And I'm sure he's going to have a lot of points to share with us. The good points, the bad points, what to do, what not to do. Yeah? And so with that very brief introduction, I now invite Prof. Rashid to make his presentation. And just for Prof. Rashid's knowledge, in the morning we had a request that we should have some kind of control of the session rather than allowing too many questions. But I think you know the environment, so you can handle the session yourself. So you please feel free to stop anybody or let anybody talk during your session. Prof. Rashid.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين أما بعد ونقول يا الله سبحانه وتعالى أعوذ بالكتاب الجليل আমার মাইক্রোফোনের প্রয়োজন হয় লোকে বলে যে আমার গলা খুবই জোরালো ইংরেজিতে বলে আমার খুব বড় আমি আপনাদের সাথে টেক্সটবুক লেখার ব্যাপারে আলাপ করবো ইসলামিক পার্সপেক্টিভে এবং আমার নাম হচ্ছে আব্দুল রশিদ মতিন আমি পলিটিক্যাল সায়েন্স ডিপার্টমেন্টে ইন্টারন্যাশনাল ইসলামিক ইউনিভার্সিটি মালয়েশিয়াতে আছি আমার এই বক্তব্য পরে যদি আপনাদের খারাপ লাগে তাহলে এই টেলিফোন নম্বর আপনাদেরকে দিয়ে দিলাম আপনি আমাকে ফোন করে আমাকে না আগে করতে পারবেন দোয়া করতে। আর যদি তাও যদি ইচ্ছা না হয় তাহলে ইমেল অ্যাড্রেসটা দেওয়া আছে, আপনারা ওটা বেনামি চিঠি লিখতে চান তো অবশ্যই এটা ইসলামিক না। আমি বাঙালি, অনেকে স্বীকার করতে চান না, অনেকে স্বীকৃতি দিতে চান না। I would like to speak in Bengali so that the two people at the back, they don't understand. Because I have to summon all my courage to speak on Islamization when those two authorities are sitting at the back. And that's why I will go back to them, and then, alhamdulillah, I will have a free time of doing whatever I want to do and say whatever I want to say. Nobody will be opposing me. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us all. Before I talk about how to write textbook, I thought I should talk to you very briefly about Islamization of knowledge. And I think you know it better than I do. Prof Aslam, Prof Kamal, they are the authorities in this area. And this is what I had been getting when I was thinking about Islamization of knowledge. There are many people, they do many things in the name of Islamization of knowledge. Some people, they think that Islamization of knowledge, when you are writing about Islamization of knowledge, what you have to do is just to start with Alhamdulillah and start with Bismillah, and in between Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, and when you finish writing you say MashaAllah, Wallahu a'lam bissawab. That is what has been the practice, and most of us indulge in this kind of thing, and we just go on embellishing our writings with verses from the Quran, with citings, ahadith, etc., etc., and we carry on. This is what it is. Another thing which many people object to when I say this one, I say that if you are writing an article or a book, and you are presenting only purely the Islamic aspect of it, what Islam has to say about a particular thing, I think that is Islamic perspective yet, but that is not Islamization of knowledge perspective. It is something that we have to be different from it. Many people, and I have been looking at your proposals last night and the night before, is that you talk about economics or finance and microeconomics and law and other things that I was going through, that it's all presented from the purely secular Western perspective, and at the end you have a small talk on what Islam has to say. Okay, this is an emphasis on Islam, but this is not Islamization of knowledge. Okay, and I don't think translating the Quran or translating the Sunnah, translating the Hadith is Islamization. That's not Islamization. I'm not belittling the importance of these things. Yes, we must do this. We must translate anything and everything which is useful to understand Islam and to give an Islamic perspective. But if you are asking me whether it's Islamization of knowledge, obviously it is not. It is not. So we have to understand these things. So what is Islamization of knowledge then? And I have here two definitions I have given here. One is from Shahid Ismail al-Faruqi. It's very simply recasting knowledge as Islam relates to it. To recast knowledge as Islam relates to it. Okay? In other words, there is a kind of knowledge which is available readily. Now you have to look at that knowledge and you have to recast it. You have to look into it and you come up with it, and I will give you some more. And Professor Abdul this is supposed to be his area. This entire building was his own brainchild, and he defined Islamization of knowledge as deliverance of knowledge from its interpretation based on secular ideology and from meaning and expressions of the secular. That's what it is. Prof. Kamal would say Islamization of human, Islamicization of human knowledge. Okay? And this is what comes out in this definition. So if you are going to do Islamization of knowledge, then what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? It's not a question of giving the Western concept and then you plugging in Islamic concept. That's not Islamization. Okay? You are showing two different parts. That's not Islamization. If you are really serious about doing Islamization of knowledge, then you have to do the following. Okay, the task of Islamization of knowledge must involve. This is where the problem is: a critical examination of the methods of modern science, its concepts, presuppositions, symbols, empirical and relational aspects, and those impinging upon ethics and values. You have to look at it from a very, very critical perspective. And critical perspective could come from both the Western perspective as well as from Islamic perspective. From the Quran and Sunnah you will get it. Its interpretations of origin, that's very, very important. Its theory of knowledge. Its presuppositions on the existence of an external world, of the uniformity of nature, and of the rationality of the natural processes, its theory of the universe, its classification of the sciences, its limitations and interrelations with one another of the sciences and its social relations. You have to do this if you want to do Islamization of knowledge. If you are not doing it, then you are not doing Islamization of knowledge. In political science, I'm a student of political science. In my life, I have two tragedies. I think I can share it with you. One is that I'm from Bangladesh, but people do not recognize me as such. That has always been my problem. Whenever I say I'm from Bangladesh, they will say, "Are you a Bengali?" I say, "Yeah." No, you don't. Even today somebody said that.
Yes, yes.
Even today, somebody came and said, "Oh, do you understand Bengali?" So I have to answer it. I said, "No, I don't understand Bengali." That is one tragedy. And when I was in Makkah, it was I was walking, and then I saw they were selling tea. So I wanted to tea. So I asked them, "Fishai." So he said, "Marhaba, fi." And then he said, "Anta in Iran." I said, "No."
Pakistan.
So that is one tragedy. The second tragedy is that I'm a student of political science. And Prof. Kamal says I'm a fundamentalist. They see me, they think I'm a Sufi. When they see me, they think I'm a very pious person. I'm not. And then they will tell me, "Ustaz?" I said, "Yeah, I'm a professor," but they say Ustaz because of the beard. And then they say, "Ustaz, what are you doing?" I said, "I teach in IIUM." "Oh, yeah. I know what you teach." I said, "What?" "You must be teaching Quran and Sunnah." I said, "No, I don't." "Oh, I know." I said, "What?" "You must be teaching Arabic." I said, "No, brother, I don't teach Arabic." "Then what do you teach?" I said, "I teach political science." And he said, "Na'udhu billahi min dhalik. This cannot be true." What can I do? Prof. Kamal did it. Okay, so if you are talking about Islamization of knowledge, this is what we have to do. We have to look at things as it is. And if you want to do it. Now there are many things. The reason I gave you my own personal tragedy is to tell you something looks similar, something looks good, It's not necessarily the same. There are many things which are similar, but they are not the same. There are many things in applied aspect, many things are similar between the West and Islam. You will find it. But if you look into the worldviews, if you look into their theory of the universe, if you look into their rational aspects of it, you will find that they are poles apart. Okay? And subscribing to that part would be tantamount to playing with your own belief system. Okay? So whenever you encounter a concept, an issue that you would like to do it, you have to start from the critical examination of the methods of modern science, and then you go ahead and start doing it. Okay? So when you are writing textbooks, this is what you have to start with. You cannot simply say, aha, this is Islam, and you should accept it. You have to show them that, okay, this is Islam, this is how we are different from others, this is how we are better than others, and therefore we take it. It's not a question of dogma, it's not a question of simple belief system, yes, but you have to prove that this is what it is. Okay, so with this small introduction, I thought I would go into talking about writing the textbooks. Okay, but before I say, I have a disclosure here, property disclosure, disclaimer notices. This is what you are familiar with. Real estate broker and agent. Okay, I'm not an expert on textbook writing. This is not my profession. I have written 3 or 4 books, yes. 2 of them have been very, very popular. Introduction to Political Science is a textbook in 7 universities, in addition to IIU, and it is now running into the 5th edition. But it is not exclusively on Islamic perspective. Okay, the one which is on Islamic perspective is another book I wrote in 1996, Political Science and Islamic Perspective. That is the one which has received a good response from outsiders. Unfortunately, that one is not known. But this book has been translated by BIIT in Bengali without my knowledge. It has also been translated into Bahasa Indonesia and Bahasa Turkey. So that has received a good reception, and alhamdulillah, it's a good thing. So I'm not an expert on it. Whatever I'm going to say is on the basis of what my experience is all about. And when I was writing Introduction to Political Science, I submitted first chapter, and the publisher came out saying, Prof, this is not the way to write the textbook. I said, oh my God, tell me what is it? He said, no, we have arranged a 2-hour session for you, so please come and sit with us and then we will do it. I said, I cannot go. He said, okay, we will bring the guys here. So the 3 professors who had written textbooks before, they came in and they gave me 2-hour lecture on hands-on training on how to write it. So I was very lucky. I got a publisher who came in and who showed me how to write it, and that's how we started going. It's a very tedious job, and but we have to do it, okay? So, textbook, what it is? Textbook is heart of our educational activities. It's the source of information. It gives you content knowledge. It tells you what will go on in a class, and it will help assess what the students do and do not learn. Okay? This is very, very important for us. If you want to socialize, which is what the university is all about socialization. If you want to socialize, then you need a textbook. And if you don't need a textbook, if you don't have a textbook, then no matter how much you emphasize things, it will not register. And eventually you will be producing. One of the major problems of the Muslim world, as far as the academic world is concerned, The major problem is that we don't have textbooks. So Prof. Kamal would go into the classroom and he would talk about Islam. Aslam would go and talk about Islam. I would go and talk about Islam. But when we ask them what is it, that's the textbook written by the Westerners, they read that one. So there is a disjuncture between what we say and what they read. There is a mismatch. I say something, they read something else. And there are some institutional problems. So when it's time for assessing the students, we have to assess on the basis of what they have read, not on the basis of what they hear. And Alhamdulillah, our Muslim students are very good students. I was telling others that our students are Ahlul Hadith. They are not Ahlul Kitab. In the early days, we did not have any books, so we taught and they listened, and whatever they listened, they read it. Now it has been turned other way around. Now they have become Ahlul Kitab, no more Ahlul Hadith. What the teacher says, they don't care. What the book says, they care. And when we are assessing the students, we have to assess on the basis of what is written in the book. Otherwise, everybody would start failing, and then we have to close the shop. It's up to you. What do you want to do? So you want to run the business of educating your children? You must have textbooks. If you don't have textbooks, you give them whatever is available. They will read, they will eat, and then they will digest whatever is written there, not what you say. Because it's the book which stays with them, not you. In the early days of education, our ustads, our teachers would be with us 24 hours. Okay? They will make sure that we have digested, we have taken in everything that they wanted us to have. Okay? The books, have it or not have it, they are here with us all the time. So at the end, they would produce knowledgeables. And unless and until the ustaz is sure that the student has the knowledge, he will not give him the certificate. You cannot go out and teach. Now we don't have that system. So the earlier system used to produce knowledgeables. Now our students, they need credits, they don't need knowledge. So a graduate must have 120 credit hours. So once in any way you have satisfied 120, you are a graduate. You have 36 credit hours, you are masters. You have 60 credit hours, you have PhD. Are these knowledgeable people? I say these are creditable people. These are creditables, not necessarily knowledgeables. And the reason why they are not knowledgeables is what Ismail Faruqi wrote in his book, that our ulama of the past, they were the running encyclopedias. They were running encyclopedias. The reason they learned things that they believe came from their own heart. The reason they study things because it is based upon their belief system. They were Muslims first studying Islam, no matter what. They were studying Islam, and they knew that whatever they are studying is Islamic, and therefore they absorbed everything, assimilated everything. There was no need for Islamization of knowledge. They knew Islam. So whatever came in automatically became Islamic, and they loved it, and therefore they went after knowledge. And that's how they ended up becoming the encyclopedia. Now, that is not the case. I went to the West to get my master's, not to get knowledge. I knew that the knowledge I am getting is not Islamic, it's the Western knowledge. So I have no love for knowledge. And Faruqi says, the Westerners, they gave us 100% knowledge, but we did not go there for knowledge. Because we didn't know that Allah said we have to. And even when we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says we have to acquire knowledge, and when we went there, we found that the knowledge is not our knowledge, it is their knowledge. So we were not eager to take it. So whatever they gave, we took the 50% of what they gave. And when I came back as a teacher, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in giving you the knowledge, except for money and for the post. So I give you 50% of what I know, and because you are not interested, you take 50% of what I give you. This way, the standard of education deteriorated. And one way you can help is to write textbooks and tell the students that, look, this is Islam, you are a Muslim, you are here to acquire knowledge, here is the textbook, you will learn from here, and inshallah, they will accept it. So we go from there, and so it should provide rich area of facts, it should give fantastic experience, and your textbook would influence the students, what they learn, and it should also tell the teachers what they should teach. If you don't have, and this is I'm telling you from my experience, okay, in this university, if you don't have a textbook to teach, no matter how much of sermonizing you do to your teachers to teach Islam and talk about Islam, they would go in, start by Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and then they will open the textbook and they will start telling you what the textbook says. That's what we want. And it will not work. And over time, it would die down. Okay? So textbooks are important. So if you are looking at the structure of the textbooks, I can give you, this is ordinarily available everywhere. Okay, the books have these parts. This is all the books have these parts. You have parts, you have chapters, you have sections, you have subsections. This is ordinarily, if you open a textbook, this is what you will get. Okay, and it has headings and subheadings, and the chapters are divided into sections, and subheadings tell the main idea of each section of text. You know it better than I do. There will be a table of contents. Of course, you must have table of contents. There are two ways of doing table of contents. I thought I should share it with you. One table of contents which is very extensive, very extensive, and the other table of content is very minimal. Okay, it simply would give you the chapter-wise, and then it would simply write down the headings and subheadings, and that's where the end of it all about. In the early days, we did not have the indexing system. So they used to make the table of contents lengthier, so that by looking at the table of contents contain the topic as well as the page number. So if you are teaching, you look at the table of contents and you can go to the page number straight away by doing it. But nowadays, we have the index at the end of the book. So the index contains all the topics, not necessarily the headings and subheadings. So all the areas that have been covered, index covers that one, and it gives you the page number. So that you can always refer to whichever topic and whichever issue area that you would like to work on. Recently, John Esposito, I hope you have heard his name, John Esposito wrote a book, What Billions of Muslims Think. And he came to UIA and he presented it. I read the book, it's a very good book. And then John asked me, Rashid, what do you think about the book? I said, it's a very good book, but I have a problem with you. He said, what? I said, I read it first time and I enjoyed it. I remember there are beautiful things that I wanted to quote in my article that I'm writing, I could not do that. He said, why? I said, there is no index. There is no index. Therefore, I had to reread the whole book again and jotting down the points which I wanted to jot down. But if you had the index, it would do. Earlier days, table of contents used to do the same thing. Okay, it helps the readers to identify the key topics. Okay, and that's very, very important that you should do it. Okay, every chapter introduction. I have seen the proposals that you have made. I read about 7 or 8, 9 of them. I have seen it, they include all these things that is usually required. Questions are not included, but vocabularies are not included. Sections are given, objectives are given, etc., etc. These are normal features which you will find, and it's not something very interesting. Okay, every chapter must have a summary. Okay, it will tell us what is this topic about, how does it fit in. It's a shorthand way of telling you what the chapter contains. Okay, the important thing is the subject matter. Okay, when we are talking about Islamization of knowledge, I'm talking specifically about Islamization of knowledge textbook. Then, if you are writing, then I said that your subject, you should try to develop in a psychological sequence, cognitive, affective, and evaluation. Okay, first of all, to know. Second, to have feeling, and third one, so that they can evaluate. We can talk about it later on. The subject matter should be consistent, not jumping from one area to the other without having a link. And of course, we are talking about Islamic attitudes, Islamic cultural values, etc. should be included in it. This is the most important part is that local environment and life experiences. When you are giving examples in the textbook, don't just copy it from others and then you present it. You know, it's much more rewarding. It would have much more effect if you give examples from the environment that you are in. If you give your own life experiences, which people can see, and you know, if you could relate it to where you are living, that would be better. The facts and concepts should be modern. That's why you are trying to Islamize it. So when you are dealing with it, these are the things that you should do. The style of writing, okay? Language must be simple. The writing style needs to be accessible as possible. You have to make it as easy as possible. The problem with us is that English is not our language. And our language is very simple, to be honest with you. Okay? When you are talking, when I'm talking, my language is very simple, everybody understands. But when it comes to writing, I have to make it difficult. So I use bombastic words, borrowed from here, borrowed from there, some phrases which may or may not fit in there, we want to put it there in order to impress the audience, okay? Full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. One of my colleagues, he wrote a book and he asked me to review it. I read 3 pages. And believe me, 3 pages, it took me a whole day to understand what he wants to say, because I had to have a dictionary next to me. Every single sentence I used a dictionary to find out exactly what he wanted to say. And finally he asked me, did you review my book? I said, no, I did not. So why you didn't? I said, 2 reasons. One, if I reviewed it, perhaps the journal will not publish it, because it would be very damaging. And if they publish it, you will not be talking to me, because it would be very damaging. And his answer was very interesting. He said, do you know Bertrand Russell? I said, yes. How many people criticize him? I said, many people. He said, if you are a scholar, you must write in such a way that ordinary people will not understand and intelligent people will criticize. I wish Prof. Kamal was doing this. He does not do that. I cannot criticize him. Aslam is down to earth. You know? But that is not the way to write. So, the formula for writing is ABC. ABC. Okay? So you should develop the habit of writing ABC. Alright? Yeah, ABC. A for Allah, B for beautiful, C for creativity. A stands for accuracy. It should be accurate. Whatever you are saying, you should say it so that it does not leave room for double, triple interpretations. One word has one meaning and that meaning should be conveyed. That is accuracy. It should be accurate. Huh? Accurate. So accuracy. B for brevity, brief. B for brief. You know. Here is an example. I gave 200 ringgit from my own pocket to an organization which houses the orphans. Is there anything wrong in that sentence? There's nothing wrong in that. So I paid 200 ringgit from my own pocket to an organization which houses orphans. But that's not brief. Of course, 200 ringgit. Would I pay 200 ringgit from somebody else's pocket? No. No. So what is the use of saying I paid 200 from my own pocket? No need. And a house which, an organization which houses orphans is called an orphanage. So you could